Hi boys and girls, welcome to our last week of Art at Home. For this project we're going to be making an oil pastel bird. I'm going to be using oil pastels. You can do this with crayons or colored pencils or pretty much anything else you have to color with. But I'm going to start off with the drawing portion of it and then we'll go from there. So to start, you're going to make almost like a triangle shape in the middle, and I'm going to do this in pencil and then I'll go over it a little bit darker. So I'm going to make a triangle shape that's curved. Okay, and I will go over this with marker now. Okay, so there is my beak, and then I'm going to start with making something that kind of looks like an apostrophe. Can you see that? It's like a circle with a C attached to the side, or a little line, and then you can color that in. So I'm going to go ahead and color that in. So I just did a circle and then give it a little curve at the bottom. All right, so there's the beginning of my beak. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to my eyes, and my eyes are going to be quite a bit bigger. They're going to be exaggerated. So I'm going to start by making a circle, quite a big circle. And I make a couple circles until I get one that I like. Okay. And I'm going to make one that's just a little bit smaller. And if you have like a bottle lid or anything that's round that you want to trace, that's fine too. So this is going to be 3 circles. So you're going to have one for the outside of the eye. And again, we're going to be coloring this in. So if you want to sketch just like I did to get a nice smooth circle, that's fine too. There, hopefully you can see that. And then I'm going to go ahead and give kind of just a loop on the top. So it's going to follow the top and then give it a little flick. All right, like a little bit of a eyelash. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And again, I'm going to start with my pencil going around and around and around until I see, yep, they're about the same size. Then I'm going to add in the center circle and finish with another highlight. So I'll darken this one. All right, so there is that. There's the start. From here, I'm just going to add in almost like a U, and then it's going to bring it up. And the rest of this is done with the oil pastel. So I'll show you where to go from here. So I'm going to start with one of my darker blues, and I'm just doing this in blue just because you can do this in whatever color you want. You can do this in rainbow. And then I'm going to bring this darker color right up into these eyes. Okay. And again, if you have oil pastels at home, that's great. It's not something that you absolutely need. You can do this totally without them. I just like using them because I can cover a lot of space much quicker. So for the purpose of doing a video, this is useful if I'm trying to cover a lot of area in a quick amount of time for what you're watching. So I'm going to go through and add in black now for where the shadows are. And this doesn't need to be really nice and neat. This can be done with texture so that it looks like the actual feathers of the bird. So right now you would do little lines to show where the shadows are. So we would have shadows by the top of his eyes. We would have a darker line right around the edge of his iris. And we would actually color in all of the pupil except for where the highlight is, because you still want to see that little light in the reflection. All right. And even bring some of this black down in here. Okay. So I'm going to continue on adding black, and I'm not going to do this one in time lapse so that I can explain where the lights and where the darks go. If you are using oil pastel and you don't want to color all the way, you can use your finger and actually just smudge it once you get a good amount down, and it should move and blend on the paper for you. Okay, so that's the beginning of my darks. I'm going to start adding in some lights now. Okay, so we're going to add in the lights that go up and over. These would be more mediums, huh? I didn't realize there were so many blues in this pack. So I am just doing like a scribble motion. So I'm just going zigzags up and down until I get enough color laid down that I'm happy with. Okay, so I'm going up and down, and I'm going to start to layer up in here as well. And the cool thing about pastels is that you can layer them. So I can put white on top of this to give it a highlight. I can add black later, and they blend and they smudge. Crayons do the same thing, they just don't do it to the same extent. So if you're doing this with crayon, you might have a different end result, and that's okay, because it'd be awfully boring if all the art projects in the world look the same. Okay, so I'm getting further down here, I'm adding in white. I'm gonna keep right underneath his eye really light, kind of make it pop. And my oil pastel actually has some of the blue on it from coloring up in here, and I'm gonna leave that. If you don't want that, you can take a paper towel and just wipe it off, and it'll come right off. But I want it, because I want mine to have a pretty bright under eye area. And I'm gonna bring it down. Okay. My assistant artist over here is doing something with feathers. Carly, what are you making? Are you making a bird too?
No, I'm making something out.
Oh, okay. We'll find out, huh? Maybe we'll turn that into our next bird project for this week.
Maybe it's not.
All right, so I have these layers down, and now I'm going to have one side darker, one side of the beak darker, because it naturally would have a shadow. So I'm just going to continue on in the same kind of scribbly manner that we've been going. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Doesn't have to be super nice and neat, because those strokes from your hand are what's going to give it the texture to look like the feathers again. Okay, so I am just laying down color, and I'm turning this paper as I'm going. Hopefully this will still be easy to see, but I'm turning this paper as I'm going so that you can see, or so that it's easier for my hand to move. So if you need to turn your paper too, go for it. I feel more comfortable coloring this way, and you might too. Okay, so we're gonna get the rest of this colored in. I'm going to add a little bit of this darker color here, and then I'm going to add in the black. Okay. Adding in some black here. And I'm going to go right over this black with blue to make it not as dark, make it more of a navy. Okay, almost done with that. I'm gonna make sure to get fresh white for the highlight. Right there and right there. Now for the center of the eyes, for the iris, which is the colored part, I'm actually going to lay down white first. And you can't see it, but it will make a difference. So I did some scribbles of white first. Now I'm going to do some little lines of blue all the way up and across. Okay, so they're just lines, nothing fancy. And now I'm going to take one of my darker blues. How about this one? And give it a little scribble across the edge. All right, same thing on this side. And like I said, this is just the color I chose. You don't have to do blue. You don't even have to do a bird. You could take the eyes and the beak and turn it into something totally different. You could make a monster out of it if you wanted to. That's entirely up to you. I'm just going to keep adding these little lines, those layers. Okay. Now, because I did this side dark, I'll talk to you as I'm finishing this one. Because I did this side dark, I want to make this side lighter because one side has to have a light source. So I'm not going to use any black over here. I'm just going to stick with some of the lighter blues. Okay. Just making simple strokes, little light lines. This is neat to do too. If you have like a cardboard box, you can put the cardboard box underneath and it'll give it a little bit of a texture as well. And I'll continue working on this more. I'm just going to color the majority of it on camera, but I'll continue working on it for this sample after, so you can see really what it can turn out like. But I'll move on to the beak real quick so you can see where to go from there. I'm going to use yellow. And I'm going to use this light lemon yellow to cover most of the nose. Except for the edges in the center. In the center, I'm going to really go over a lot with white. I want it to shine. Okay, and then the edges, I'm going to bring this darker yellow in so that it has dimension. That's the light and the medium and the dark. Okay. All right. Last but not least, I'm going to take this black and go over it one more time just to make these parts pop. Okay. All right, let's turn in this real quick. And there you have it. I'll keep coloring this a little bit more and I'll post the finished product when we're done. I hope you have fun if you choose to do this one.